Can you give us what TICs are?
Absolutely, absolutely. So TICs, TICs stand for tenants in common. And really all it means is like where you have more than one person on title. So and a lot of, in previous times, like, a lot of people have probably heard of TICs, mostly in the field of like, say, 1031 exchanges, where maybe people are buying into like, say, a shopping mall or a large hotel, and there's like 100 investors in there, and they're exchanging into, maybe they're taking their $2 million piece and placing it in the hotel, or whatever it is, and there's however many owners of that property there are. So that's one type of tenant in common where, another type is a timeshare. I actually have a timeshare, through Hilton, and I own 1/52nd. I own 1 week out of 52 in a year, to stay at my property.
Hawaii, Maui, Cancun, those are the atypical. No, my partner Alex just came back from a timeshare in Maui, and it was the Hilton one, by the way. So yeah,
there we go. So yeah, so usually those are considered tenant in common, properties. But the type of tenant in common property that I was speaking about, and I believe you're speaking about, and that kind of fits into this multifamily space, is what's known as a space allocation, TIC. So let's say the three of us decided to buy a triplex together.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a 3-unit property, and John owns a third, Milan owns a third, I own a third. We're all 1/3 owners. And let's just say, for sake of ease, that all the units are the same, right? They're all 2 bedrooms. Okay. So, and obviously not all properties are like this. One could be bigger. I could own the 3-bedroom. John could own the 1-bedroom. Milan could own a 5-bedroom. Like, it just depends on the property itself, right? But technically, in a tenant in common, we would all own the property together. Technically, we could all go into each other's spaces because we all own a piece of the whole pie, right? However, so the type of TICs that we're starting to deal with, that we're starting to convert from multifamily, are known as space allocation TICs, where, let's say John's in unit 1, I'm in unit 2, Milan's in unit 3. We would each agree that we only have the right to go into our own particular unit, right? So only John can go to his, only I can go to mine, Milan can go to hers, okay? And let's say, once again, let's make these numbers easy. Like, let's say we bought the triplex for $750,000. We each put in $250,000 to buy it,
right?
So let's say one day Milan's like, I'm tired of this. I want to buy my own house, right? And she wants to sell her share of the TIC. She can do that, right? Now, the issue is this, right? We bought it together as a $750,000, triplex.
Right.
So our property tax basis is now at $750,000, right? But let's say Milan does well. Let's say she sells her portion for $500,000. She doubles her money. Okay. Now the basis of the building is now $1 million. It's no longer $750,000. Now our property tax basis all goes up.
I see.
Right? Does that mean me and John have to pay more property tax? All depends on how you structure this. But the way we typically have things structured, whoever buys Milan's unit
has to pay for that difference. Smart.
The property tax. We still would all have certain shared expenses, right? Because there might be one water main, right? Depends on how the electricity is run. There might be, like we would have to figure out any shared expenses like any HOA would, right? Even if you're in a condo, you would have the same thing. But the big difference between a condo and a TIC is that you don't own your unit. You own a percentage of the building.
Got it.
So that's basically, in a nutshell, what it is.
I love that explanation. That just gets right. Like, you automatically kind of understand what this is. Now, what are the advantages of that versus how certain people are buying it just based on an LLC? Automatically, it just tells me there's an ease of kind of shared ownership. There's could be partnerships that are had, and everyone could kind of create a portfolio of multifamily in this structure with multiple people. Is there a kind of an ease of getting in and out versus maybe an LLC or?
Yeah, so So TICs really started, TICs really started up in the Bay Area where they were having issues, right? You had a large population base that wanted to buy, but maybe couldn't afford to, and there was also a lack of inventory, right? There's just not a lot of supply.
I see.
So people started to say, hey, we live in a triplex. Let's buy it. Let's each, the three, all of us get together and we buy it and we parcel it out and we figure out who owes what and all those things. So that's kind of how it started. And definitely it's something that, in terms of buying it in an LLC, obviously how you want to structure, however you want to buy something, that's up to you. An LLC would not technically be a tenant in common. That would be a partnership. Right. And I get a lot of people ask me, well, what's the difference between, say, TIC and a co-op, which co-ops are something most people have heard of, particularly in New York. Right?
Yeah.
New York's very well known for co-ops, but there's a big difference between a TIC and a co-op. A co-op is a corporation. You're buying shares in a company that owns the entire building. And with any shareholder, people can say no to certain shareholders.
Voting right.
Okay.
Yes.
So like the most famous example is Madonna wanting to buy it into a co-op in New York, and the co-op saying no, like they didn't want Madonna in their co-op. Okay. So in a TIC, if once again, depending on how you structure it, generally the way we do it is like, say, going back to our example, say Milan decided like I want to sell my portion. If it's structured correctly, John and I would have no say in who Milan could sell it to. She could sell it to whoever she wants, whoever wants to pay that $500,000 difference, and now we would have a new neighbor and a new person in the TIC with us. I see. So that's a big difference. Now, a lot of people ask, well, why not just like turn into a condo? Like why do a TIC? Well, I mean, you may even know this more than I do, John, but my understanding is to convert something to a condo is much more difficult. First of all, you own your condo, which means that wherever it's zoned, it has to be mapped as a condo map. There has to be APNs for each of the units, okay? That has parking requirements, electrical requirements, permitting requirements. There's public discussion. It could require a lot of changes to the building and a lot of fees in order to get, and even after that, you may not get it approved. Right. Because there could be neighbors who could stop it. Right. So that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people aren't able to convert their property into a condo, even if they wanted to. Right. A TIC, however, is a private agreement between the owners. And the courts have ruled on this, that the courts do not want to be involved in TICs because they're like, no, it's an agreement. The three of us have agreed we're going to own this together. Yeah. And however you guys want to structure it within yourselves, is the way it is. Now, that obviously has certain positive and negatives, right? Because obviously, if you own your own unit, you have you are responsible for your property tax. Right. You are also responsible for, whatever financing and all that stuff. Whereas if the three of us own it together, there's one property tax bill. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So if one of us decides, I'm not going to pay it, then that becomes an issue. Yes. Between the three of us, so these are the kinds of like trade-offs you have to consider. Now, the other big trade-off, which has been a big issue, is the financing for the buyers. Yes. So most banks don't like to lend on TICs because you don't own your unit. You own a piece of the property. How can they foreclose on a piece of the property? Right. That's been an issue. But it's called fractional lending. But more and more lenders are getting into the space. When I first started selling TICs, there was only 2 banks that you could go to that would do TIC lending. Now there's like 4 or 5 banks. Easily. Previously, they didn't even have a 30-year fixed product. Yeah. Now they have 30-year fixed products, although they're still not that common. They're still mostly adjustable rate mortgages, ARM products. Right. They tend to be more expensive, these products. Usually it's about a 0.5 point to 2 points higher than, say, if you bought a condo or a single family.
Right.
So for that reason, TICs are usually priced about 10 to 15% below what you would see in
As
a
an offer.
condo. So it's a great, so a lot of people are like, wow, that property is so, like, why is it priced that way? It seems like it's really, very affordable, very expensive, but then you get into it and you're like, oh, you're buying into a TIC, you're not buying into a condo, so there's just these trade-offs that buyers and sellers have to think about. Now, going back to your question, John, about why own it as a TIC versus an LLC. So I mean, this is more of a legal question and I'm not 100% sure, but I do know, like I said, it might be easier, for example, if we owned it as a TIC, to be able to sell each of our individual portions versus getting out of an LLC, right? Because you have to then redo the LLC, redo the operating agreement, you have to do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So setting it up as a TIC might allow like greater flexibility for the people involved. So.
Oh, absolutely. I see that. And then just touching on kind of the fractional lending, because my background is in loans and I've been a broker for 14 years. There is a definite move toward equity investment versus, so the concept is, okay, we understand fractional ownership and we're willing to lend under those kind of structures. But there's this move in fintech that I've been personally working with. Like, there's a company called Point out of San Francisco that now allows homeowners, they'll invest in the equity. And the funny part is their investors are all the LPs that invest in the venture funds. So it's just another percentage of their overall pie that they go, oh, this percent will go to venture, this percent will go to this institution. They just created another slice of pie that says, well, you know what? Why don't we just directly invest in single family ownership? So they'll give you 350 or 500,000 for, say, 18%. So they're sharing the upside. So you don't have to even pay for, it's not a loan. You don't pay payments. There's no repayment period for up to 10 years. But there's a high upside because they know the trends and they know, hey, if you use that money, you build an ADU or you split the lot and build a duplex, we're already making money. So it's kind of shared appreciation. So I'm curious to see, and I might have to reach out on them, their willingness to even be a potential lender on TICs, but definitely see the advantages of the ease of going in and out.